Item F, adopt resolution requesting the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to allocate fiscal year 2009-2010 Transportation Development Act Article 3 Pedestrian Bicycle Project funding to the City of San Bruno for the Commodore Drive Pedestrian Access Project. Mr. Shannon.
No. Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's a pleasure again to be before you tonight to talk about this exciting project that we've developed over the last few months. This is another grant-funded project. The grant is often referred to as TDA Article 3. It stands for Transportation Development Act, and it is dedicated, a federal fund source that's dedicated to make bicycle and pedestrian improvements in specific areas. It's a process that's facilitated by the City County Association of Governments. However, the City Council, the CCAG selects the projects that are proposed. Those selected projects then are forwarded to the MTC for official funding, which is the formal request that we're asking Council to make tonight. It's a competitive process. We're proud to say that the city finished third out of the 16 that were submitted. What's going to happen next is the forwarding of that recommendation, that ranking, to MTC for funding. I'll talk a little bit more about the project site and then talk some more about how the process will go from here. The project site description is a place that doesn't have any sidewalk, essentially. It's located adjacent to the Federal Archives building. On one side of Commodore, that section of Commodore, you have Commodore Park, the dog park, Palos Verdes School, you have the Bay Hill Shopping Center. The other side, you have BART, Tan Foran, and the Crossing. So that little corridor without sidewalk actually separates some pretty high-use areas that we wanted to address. Another unique factor is the way the roadway on Commodore Drive splits. That provides some opportunities and some challenges, and I'll talk about that when I show you the map here in a sec. The construction will involve 575 feet of 6-foot wide sidewalk along the north side of Commodore Drive, which is adjacent to the Archives building. We'll install 10 accessible curb ramps. For a portion of that roadway, we're actually going to have to widen it. There's one portion, Commodore sort of splits into a Y. One of the legs of the Y is sort of two one-lane roads. The other section of the Y is one road that goes two ways. And so that section of the road that goes two ways isn't quite wide enough to receive the sidewalk, so we'll have to widen that a little bit. We'll also install some pedestrian scale lighting where none currently exists, as well as refresh the pavement markings and add some appropriate signage for bicycles and pedestrians. Here's a sort of the site plan here. Where the mouse is circling is sort of the project area. This is the Federal Archives. This is Tan Foran BART. You have Bay Hill over here. So it's this section in particular that we're looking at. And if you can see this, I hope you can see this okay. The light gray lines there are where we're going to install the new sidewalk. These little yellow dots are where we're going to install the pedestrian curb ramps. And as I'm running my mouse along here, this is the section of the roadway that is one lane. So cars here travel from the right side of the screen to the left side. Once they get to this section, this is where it becomes two lanes again. This is the section of the roadway that will need a little bit of widening, which sort of presents a little bit of a challenge. So besides the lack of sidewalk, there are some non-standard pavement markings. However, even though there's no sidewalk and the pavement markings are sort of need to be refreshed, it is still used as a pedestrian corridor for employees commute, people walking from BART to places of work or business. It's used for school drop-off and personal errands. And to do so, folks have to walk in the street. So we want to try to address that. And here are a couple pictures. The circle here is a student with his backpack on walking down. Here we have one of our seniors from the affordable senior housing in the Crossing going to do some shopping. And of course, we want to get those folks out of the street. A lot of things came together to make this project worthwhile to pursue. It is located within a pedestrian emphasis zone, which the general plan calls out specific areas where improvement should be directed to improve pedestrian access and enjoyment. Last year, the city received a small grant from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission to study bicycle routes and pedestrian routes from the BART station to different areas in the city where you could shop or live, and it identified particular paths bikes and pedestrians take to and from the BART station, and also where those improvements should be made. One of the most important improvements that they identified was this gap on Commodore Drive that we're trying to address. literally at the same time we were finalizing this study, a group of San Bruno residents and employees at the Federal Archives came forward to the city with a petition and a request to address this lack of sidewalk and sort of the lack of crosswalk issues. So it really was because we had the professionals saying, hey, this is an area that needs to be looked at. We had a strong community desire. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee of San Bruno, when reviewing this project, thought it would be one of the priority improvements that the city could make and recommended that staff try to identify some funding to make this project happen. The costs, unfortunately, are higher than we would like, and that really involves because sidewalk is fairly expensive and we're installing a lot of sidewalk. We also have to do that widening of the roadway that not all of it, but there is a portion of it that needs to be widened to accommodate the new 6 feet of sidewalk. So the funding request that we're going to receive from TDA is $160,000. There is a local match then left over is $160,000, and that can come from several sources. Because it is in the redevelopment area, it qualifies for redevelopment funding, and the initial recommendation for the 09-10 budget is to use that funding. However, if that doesn't pan out to be the most appropriate use, there are also some dedicated transportation capital fund projects, capital funding sources that have to be used for transportation-related issues that this project would qualify for. So there was no anticipation or intent at all to use any general fund money for this project. These are all from dedicated funding sources. However, hopefully we don't have to use a local match. We did apply to the state for a Safe Routes to Schools program. It's a very competitive process. Only about 25% of the applicants actually receive funding. However, we have won some funding awards over the past 8 or 9 years or so with the Stop, Look, and Wave campaign, as well as most recently we refreshed all of the crosswalks and pavement markings near schools with thermoplastic striping, which made the pavement markings pop out a little more and reduce maintenance costs. So we think this is a pretty stronger application we've had in a couple of years for Safe Routes to School. So we do hope that we can get this funding, although it certainly is not assured. So now that I've covered those costs, the timeline is what's remaining. The City County Association of Governments approved the project in March. Tonight is when the city can formally request the funding from the MTC. We expect MTC to appropriate funds this summer, and the design and construction to coincide with the street paving project that will occur in summer of 2010. So I believe with that, we're here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from council?
Go ahead.
Yep. Councilwoman O'Connell?
Because the sidewalk is going to take away dirt, right? Or is it
pavement? It's pavement. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a very, very wide street.
I was just wondering if we've looked at using pervious concrete so that we restore some of the water permeation.
I think as we go through the design of getting through the particulars of the design, we'll look at, there are some ways to do pervious concrete. There are some other methods of doing a green street type idea that we could investigate. So we might be able to actually add more pervious area. Right now none really exists, but we would try to add more if it looks technically feasible.
Okay, and then along, if I may for a minute, along with the signage for the street crosswalking, could we have look at the driving signage for the one-way? It can be very confusing because it looks like you're going into a parking lot, which you are sort of, but it doesn't look like it's a one-way street to me anyway.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Not a bunch of ballers either. Through the chair, if I may, as the city's representative on the CCAG Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, I was proud to see this project go through. That committee is a committee that selects the 16 projects that were approved, and if it's not for the staff and the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, you know, with the presentation, filling out of the grant, and all the information, and these things don't get voted on. And I'm happy to say that San Bruno's, this project was third in line, and if we were asking more, we probably would have gotten more. But I think, you know, it was a conservative approach. I think we do score high when we do match funds and don't get too greedy. I like to think that in the future that we'll be able to have the success in getting more projects. But I want to thank Jim and the staff and the and our local Bike and Pedestrian Committee for their diligence. I know we've tried before in other grants, but this is really good, and it really I'm proud to be on the committee and get comments from our colleagues in other cities saying that this was a very good project and they really liked scoring it. With that, if there's no other comments, I'll introduce the resolution.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ruane.
Aye.
Mayor Franzella.
Aye.